My eldest brother died during a mission, leaving behind a pregnant widow. My husband, worried that no one would care for his sister-in-law, brought her to join the army and left me behind in the countryside. While I was pregnant, I had to take care of his blind mother, his lame father, his unruly younger brother, and his difficult sister, all by myself. Every month, he wrote to me about how much he missed me, yet he gave all his military benefits to his widowed sister-in-law. He even took my dowry money, claiming she needed extra nutrition during pregnancy. Didn't I need it too? She returned to the village to give birth and moved into my new house, occupying the dowry my mother had saved for me through years of frugal living. She gave birth to a son, and even though I was already 2 months pregnant, I still had to take care of her during her confinement. After the baby was born, she left him behind and followed my husband back to the army. He told me to take care of his nephew, and when I refused out of anger, he said we were all family and I had an obligation to help raise his relatives. Later, his nephew took the school spot that should have gone to my daughter, saying girls didn't need to attend school right away. His nephew went to the primary school in the military district, while my daughter had to attend a school in the countryside. Years passed. I was so worn out that my back hunched, and my hair turned white. I took care of his parents until they passed away. His younger brother graduated from college, his younger sister got married, and even his nephew got into college. When I finally went to the army to find him, he asked for a divorce. That's when I found out had only married me so someone would stay behind to take care of his parents and siblings. During our argument, he pushed me down the stairs. When I opened my eyes, I saw a man in military uniform standing before me, fanning me with a thin wooden board. I recognized him immediately. Michael Evans, James Carter's comrade, was from the next village. He and James served together in the army, and he had also been my classmate. The whole scene felt eerily familiar. When I turned to look, I saw several carts filled with my dowry furniture parked in front of James Carter's house. "Are you awake?" Michael asked gently. I nodded without thinking. The words, the moment it was all the same as in my previous life. That's when I realized I had been reborn. I was back on the day before the wedding banquet with James Carter, the very day I delivered my dowry furniture to the Carter family. James had gone to his sister-in-law's family to pick her up, and knowing I would be arriving, his family didn't leave anyone behind to greet me. Just like last time, I waited for more than 3 hours under the scorching sun and fainted from heat stroke. I became the laughingstock of the village. I looked at the uncles and aunts who had come to help deliver the dowry, stood up, and said clearly, "Let's go home. We're not delivering anything today." Michael was stunned at first, then cautiously asked, "Aren't you waiting for James to come back?" "No," I said. "Come to my place and rest for a while. It's too hot out here." Michael had only come to attend his comrade's wedding banquet. In my past life, when he went looking for James, he had no place to stay. It was me who helped him, and it was only natural to invite him in for some water and food. Michael wasn't the kind to fuss. He looked up at the blazing sun and said, "Okay, thank you." There were a dozen of us, and 6 carts. Under the hot sun, we turned around and pulled the dowry furniture back. My father had built all of it himself. Though we lived in the countryside, he was a skilled carpenter, and both my parents were hardworking. Our family only had 2 children, me brother, and meaned we lived a decent life. When we reached home, my father, who had been working near the door, saw us returning with the furniture and the crowd behind us. He stood up in shock and quickly asked what was going on. "Dad, there was no one at his house, so I brought the furniture back. Please open the wing room and put everything inside. There's no need to unload it now, we can just wait for them to return and send it over again. It's too much trouble to unload and lift everything again later." Then I stepped closer to him and whispered, "Unload it all. I don't want to get married." Confusion crossed my father's wrinkled face. Truthfully, my parents had always been against this marriage. They said his family was too burdensome with sick parents and siblings relying on him. He was the only breadwinner and still had to pay for his brother's education. They warned that if I married into his family, I would end up taking care of everyone. But I didn't listen. I had been blinded. And in doing so, I not only ruined myself, but also dragged my parents down. His father, being lame, couldn't work the fields, so my parents did it instead. They even gave me financial support, which made my sister-in-law resent them. But now that I had a second chance at life, I wouldn't make the same mistake. This time, I would watch his family fall into their own mess. Dad opened the door. It took my father a moment to process, but with so many people watching, he didn't ask further and simply unlocked the wing room. Everyone helped carry the furniture inside. My mother came out, and when she saw the furniture returning, she anxiously pulled me aside. Emma Johnson, what's going on? I don't want to marry James Carter anymore, Mom. I want to call off the engagement. Her face filled with disbelief, then relief, and finally helplessness. The villagers were curious, staring at the furniture being carried in. One nosy Anne asked, Emma, why are you bringing everything back? That's bad luck. I didn't hide the truth. The engagement will be called off soon enough, so they'll know. Auntie, the Carter family knew I was bringing the dowry today, yet no one stayed behind to greet me. I waited for 3 hours at their door. I've done my duty. If they don't respect me, I won't throw myself at them. I'm canceling the engagement. Everyone was shocked. I knew what they were thinking after all. I had been the one begging the Carter elders before. But Emma, the wedding banquet is tomorrow. How can you cancel now? The marriage application's already been submitted. I knew they doubted I'd really do it, but I had woken up. I immediately asked Michael Evans, can you give me the phone number of your political commissar? Michael hadn't expected this turn of events. Have you really thought it through? I nodded firmly. I wanted to retrieve that marriage application, nothing else mattered. Michael Evans said without hesitation, I'll go with you to make the call later. Okay, thank you. I didn't want to talk to the aunts anymore. After my mother helped me send everyone away from the door, Michael Evans rode my brother's bicycle and took me to the commune post office. In truth, our village brigade had a telephone, but the person on duty in the office was James Carter's relative. I felt it was better to keep the call to the army confidential, in case James tried something shady. The dirt road was rough and bumpy. I almost fell off the bike several times. Hold on to my clothes, we have to hurry. It's Friday, and the political commissar always has a meeting at 2 p.m. If we miss it, we'll have to wait until tomorrow, Michael said. I understood the urgency. If the marriage application was mailed back and ended up in James Carter's hands, things would become very complicated. Military marriages were not easy to dissolve. I gripped Michael's clothes tightly. When we hit a large pothole, I almost fell and instinctively wrapped my arms around his waist. A faint smile curled on Michael's lips. It was summer, and the thin military uniform clung to his body with sweat. The firm muscles under my palms made me feel uneasy. Soon, we arrived at the post office. Michael made the call to the political commissar, then handed the phone to me. Hello, political commissar. This is Emma Johnson, James Carter's marriage partner. I want to ask if our marriage application has been mailed yet. Hello, Comrade Emma Johnson. Are you feeling anxious? Don't worry, it'll arrive in 3 days. When exactly did you send it? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady.
Just now.
The army isn't far from your hometown. It should reach you in 3 days at most. My heart pounded. Is it possible to get it back now? Why would you want to do that? He asked, clearly confused. Political commissar, something happened here. I don't want to get married anymore. Can the application be retrieved? His counselor instincts seemed to kick in. Comrade Emma Johnson, marriage is not something to take lightly. If you're facing difficulties, I'm here to help. I wanted to scream. Why wouldn't he just answer my question directly? I swallowed my anger. Political commissar, I just need to know if the marriage application can be retrieved. If not, I'll apply for a divorce. Realizing how determined I was, he finally responded, though a little irritated. It's already been sent. I can't retrieve it. It was mailed to James Carter's home. You can ask him for it. Then he hung up. I stared at the phone, my eyes welling with tears. Michael had listened to the whole conversation. Don't worry, I've got an idea, he said, then dialed another number. Second uncle, this is Michael. There's a mail package, James Carter's marriage application. His fiancée doesn't want to go through with it and wants it stopped. Political commissar Wang already mailed it out and said it couldn't be retrieved. But they're in a tough spot now. If it's delivered, she'll go straight to the military district for a divorce. I think we should intercept it first and let them resolve the issue before proceeding. It wouldn't be fair to force her into this. On the other end, I heard someone say, Today's mail hasn't gone out yet. Xiao Tian, the delivery boy, is still with me. He hasn't picked it up from Political Commissar Wang. I exhaled deeply, relief flooding me. I really wanted to give that political commissar a good scolding. Michael shared the entire phone conversation he had earlier with Commissar Wang. The person on the line fell silent, then said, "Leave your phone number. I'll get back to you." We left the number for the post office and waited anxiously. 20 minutes later, the phone rang. Michael answered, then passed the phone to Might-was Commissar Wang. "Comrade Emma Johnson, I'm truly sorry," he said. "I thought it was better to break 10 temples than a single marriage. That's why I hesitated to stop the mailing. I didn't sugarcoat my response. You're the political commissar. You should understand that your so-called good intentions could have ruined my entire life." His voice faltered. Embarrassed in front of his division commander, he continued to apologize. Eventually, he agreed to leave my personal information and marriage application in the custody of the division commander, promising not to hand it over to anyone. I finally felt at ease. "Michael Evans, I'll treat you to a meal at the state-owned restaurant," I said. Michael looked relieved too. We went and ordered braised pork and hot and sour shredded potatoes. After eating, Michael escorted me to the entrance of the village before heading back home. I hadn't officially broken off the engagement yet, so I couldn't let others see me spending too much time with him. I pushed the bicycle home and there, leaning against the door, was James Carter. The moment he saw me, he rushed forward. "Michael Evans, what's wrong with you? Couldn't you wait just a little longer? You came back so soon after leaving. I don't want to marry you anymore. Tomorrow, my parents will send a matchmaker to break off the engagement." "What? Why are you being so petty? The wedding banquet is tomorrow. I only want to pick up my sister-in-law. Why can't you understand me? My brother's gone, and my sister-in-law is pregnant." I laughed coldly. "Your second uncle-in-law died 2 years ago, but you said it was bad luck to have her at the wedding since it hadn't been 3 years. You wouldn't let your second aunt come. Your older brother's only been gone for 2 months. How can your sister-in-law eat at my wedding banquet? If anything, she's the one bringing misfortune." "How can you say that? My brother sacrificed his life for the country. How can you compare him to your uncle? Isn't a sacrifice still death? I'm done wasting my time with you. I'll say this once, and for Ali won't marry you." I didn't bother exposing him further. His brother's so-called sacrifice was just the military's way of spinning the truth. In reality, soldiers are expected to follow orders. His brother acted without permission, and luckily, he was the only one who paid the price. After saying that, I pushed open the courtyard gate. James Carter was furious. "Remember this, Emma Johnson. Don't come crawling back with regret." "Don't worry," I replied coldly. "With a family like yours, what's there to regret?" My father heard the commotion and came outside. "James Carter, our family will cancel the engagement tomorrow. We'll return all the betrothal gifts to you, and you'll return everything my daughter gave your family. Get ready to bring them back tonight." Once inside the house, my parents and older brother asked whether I was just trying to scare James Carter or if I truly meant to call off the engagement. I told them firmly that I'd rather die than marry him. "Bah, don't say things like that," my mother snapped. "There's no need to die, just don't marry him. Look at his family, they're a mess. You'd suffer for the rest of your life." I hugged my mother's neck and whispered, "I've thought it through. I'm calling off the engagement." Meanwhile, James Carter got into a fight with his parents after returning home, demanding to know why they hadn't stayed home to receive the dowry. Now look what happened, all the new furniture got hauled back. His parents regretted it. They had only meant to give me a warning, never expecting I'd be so headstrong. His younger sister, Sophie Carter, said, "Don't worry. She'll come back in a couple of days. It's not the first time she's done this." But James's mother sighed. "It's my fault for not having a banquet when I got married. Why are you fussing over her? At least we'll save money if there's no wedding." James's sister-in-law, Sarah Miller, looked innocent. "It's all my fault. If he hadn't gone to pick me up, his fiancée wouldn't have gotten angry." The next day, I went with my mother to find a matchmaker, and we went to James Carter's house to officially break the engagement. As soon as we entered the yard, we saw all the relatives and neighbors who had come for the banquet. At first, his family didn't agree. "Emma Johnson, The Army already approved our marriage application. We're basically married. Don't be so stubborn. James Carter, I said, I may be a country girl, but I'm not uneducated. That marriage application is just a preliminary approval from the Army. Without a marriage certificate, we are not husband and wife. He gritted his teeth, trying to guilt me.
Fine.
Have it your way. Just don't regret it. He returned the watch I had bought him and the silver bracelet I gave his mother. His sister-in-law was still wearing my dress. He gave me back 16 yuan in cash. In front of the matchmaker and the villagers who had gathered to watch, we officially ended the engagement. After we left, James ran straight to the brigade to make a call, asking the political commissar whether the application had already been mailed. That's when he found out I had already called the Army, and the division commander had withheld the documents. Realizing I was serious, James began coming to my house every day to apologize and beg for forgiveness. Each time, my father chased him off with a broom. Michael Evans told me they were returning to the Army in 3 days. I also planned to go because I wanted to personally retrieve my information. I didn't trust leaving it in the Army's hands. If James Carter got a hold of it, all my efforts would be in vain. Michael Evans suggested I go with him. He said driving would be more convenient, and it wasn't safe for me to go alone. I agreed, since the division commander was his second uncle, and retrieving the documents through Michael would be safest and least complicated. James Carter, just like in my past life, wanted to bring his widowed sister-in-law along with him to the Army. Technically, he didn't qualify to bring dependents, but because Sarah Miller was a martyr's relative, the military district approved housing for her. Michael Evans refused to take her in his car. James, take the train with your sister-in-law. The road is too rough. She's pregnant. I'm not comfortable taking her. James, desperate to talk to me, hoped to sit with me in the car and win me over during the ride, but Michael didn't give him the chance. Sarah Miller, who was from the same village as James's grandmother and considered a childhood friend, had always been close to the Carter family. Her brother-in-law had been a battalion commander, and she had stayed with the Army ever since. Sarah had a way with words. Emma Johnson, I'm sorry. This is all my fault. If it weren't for me, you two would have been married long ago. Her eyes welled up with tears, looking heartbreakingly pitiful. Sister Sarah, I said, please don't call me that. We're not close. And actually, thank you. If it weren't for you, I might have walked straight into a pit. Sarah, visibly shaken, leaned against James. But I understand, I continued. James is your uncle. He'll take good care of your child. You're used to military life, and it won't be easy to find a soldier willing to marry a widow with a baby. James really is your best option. Sarah hadn't expected me to speak her hidden thoughts aloud. Though she claimed she never intended to break up our marriage, she had clearly wanted a free nanny to care for her during confinement and raise her child. Holding her belly, Sarah ran off crying. James chased after her, then turned and glared at me. Emma Johnson, how could you be so heartless? What did my sister-in-law ever do to you? Why are you insulting her like this? Just because she ruined your plan to be a free maid for my family? Exactly, I snapped. That's what you expected me to be, isn't it? He took a deep breath, patted Sarah on the shoulder, and walked over. Emma, I know we were wrong not to be home for the dowry delivery. But she's my sister-in-law, my family. And you're my wife. Can't you just understand and support me? My brother died. It's my duty to take care of her. Stop right there, I interrupted. That's your duty, not mine. Without another word, I climbed into the car, and Michael Evans drove us away. It usually took 3 hours to reach the Army, but with all the food stops and detours, it took us over 6. Still, it was the most relaxed I'd ever felt, something I hadn't experienced in either of my lifetimes. When we arrived, Michael parked the car near the Army gate. I looked at him in confusion, wondering why he didn't drive into the compound. Michael Evans took a deep breath and said, Emma Johnson, I actually liked you back in high school, but you were already dating James Carter then. When I saw the two of you had canceled your engagement a few days ago, I was secretly happy. Can you give me a chance? My heart pounded like thunder, and my face turned red. No one had ever confessed to me like this before. I lowered my head without responding. He thought I was being shy, but in reality, I was weighing the pros and cons. James Carter and I had been together for over 4 years, and the entire village knew we were supposed to get married. Breaking off the engagement had already ruined my reputation. In my past life, I knew Michael Evans was a decent man, but I wasn't sure if he'd let me follow the army. I had no desire to serve in-laws and sister-in-laws ever again. Seeing that I didn't answer, Michael grew a little nervous. You don't have to respond right now. Just think about it. I looked up and asked, would you make me stay behind and take care of your parents in the countryside? Michael paused, then explained, my eldest brother is the village secretary. I'll look after my parents. My sister is a military doctor in the army. I was just promoted to regiment commander. My wife can follow me into the army. My eyes lit up. You're a regiment commander? If I marry you, does that make me the regiment commander's wife? Michael smiled. Don't worry, I won't stop at regiment commander. Your title will only rise from here. I agreed, without hesitation. Call me pragmatic, but after a lifetime, I know exactly what I want. The car drove into the compound and pulled up at the commander's house. I'll take you to meet my second uncle, Michael said. He knocked on the door and a young guard answered. We entered the living room and, to my surprise, James Carter and Sarah Miller were already there. James jumped to his feet when he saw me. Emma Johnson, please tell the commander it was all a misunderstanding. Let's take back our marriage application. I sidestepped James's hand and turned to the commander. Hello, Commander. I'm Emma Johnson. I'm sorry for the trouble. I'm here to retrieve my marriage application. Commander Michael signaled the guard, who went into the study, retrieved a file, and handed it to me. I opened the envelope and pulled out the marriage application. James let out a relieved sigh and reached for it, but I tore it in half. Emma Johnson, are you crazy? Have I spoiled you too much lately? James shouted. Sarah Miller chimed in, her voice shaking. We've been apologizing nonstop. What more do you want? I looked at her and calmly asked, are you more worried no one will take care of you during your confinement, or that no one will raise your child? Without waiting for a reply, I handed my file to Michael Evans, who then passed it to the commander. Commander, I would like to apply for marriage with Comrade Emma Johnson, he declared. The commander stared at his nephew in surprise. I won't take back this file, I added. It's already been reviewed. I have a clean background and now wish to marry Comrade Michael Evans. No, James shouted. Michael Evans, how could you do this? We're comrades in arms. We are, Michael replied calmly, but I pursued Comrade Emma Johnson after your engagement ended. James was speechless. I watched the commander closely, worried he'd think I was fickle. But to my surprise, he smiled. James grabbed Sarah and stormed out in frustration. That night, we had dinner at the commander's home, and Michael took me to the army guest house. Our new marriage application was approved within 3 days, and we registered immediately. Michael even took marriage leave. The army gave us a small Western-style house with 2 bedrooms, a living room, and a yard. It had belonged to the former regiment commander. After a quick cleanup, we moved in. Michael bought new furniture and even held a wedding for me in the army. On our wedding day, he handed me a passbook. Inside was 2,000 yuan. James Carter attended the wedding and got drunk. That night, Michael Evans showed me a tenderness I had never known in either of my lifetimes. 3 days after the wedding, Michael drove me back to his hometown. I hadn't told my parents because I didn't want them to worry. I wanted to tell them face to face. But I hadn't expected James Carter to stoop so low. Rumors about me were already swirling through the village. My father and brother had packed their bags, ready to head to the army to look for me. When they saw me return home with glowing cheeks and bright eyes, my mother burst into tears. You worrying girl, she scolded. Mom, I married Michael Evans. Don't you know how respectable the Evans family is? His brother is the village secretary. I've registered to follow the army. Everything is settled. My mother had no choice but to accept it. The next day, the entire Evans family arrived with 3 traditional gifts and 1 gold ring, along with 1,000 yuan as a betrothal gift. The whole village was stunned. Everyone praised my good fortune, saying I was lucky to have broken off the Carter engagement. After staying home for 3 days, I returned to the army with Michael. 2 months later, I became pregnant. James Carter also got married. His new wife was Sarah Miller's cousin, Emily Davis. Since James didn't qualify to bring a spouse into the army, Emily stayed home to care for the whole family just as I had in my previous life. During the autumn harvest, Michael brought me back to the village. His entire extended family came to help us work the fields. What usually took over 20 days was finished in just 1 week. My father was thrilled. He remembered how last year, he and my brother had helped the Carter family after finishing their own work. He was even more satisfied with his new son-in-law. The day after the harvest ended, James Carter's parents showed up at our door and called my parents in-laws. My mother quickly stopped them. "Mrs. Carter, you must be confused. Me daughters-in-laws have the last name Michael." James Carter's parents were really shameless. "Sister Shao," James's mother said, "you see, my son isn't home, and my husband's legs aren't well. There's no man in the house to help. Can you harvest our land for us like you did in previous years?" My sister-in-law proudly stepped forward. "Annie Carter, we helped your family in the past because my sister was dating your son. Now, the two families have nothing to do with each other, right? What are you even thinking, making such a request in broad daylight? But the kids were together for so many years, they have feelings. What's wrong with lending a hand when your family is already done harvesting?" I replied with sarcasm. "Isn't your son married? Doesn't your daughter-in-law have a family of her own? Don't come to my house again. We're not close." Eventually, my mother drove the Carter family out with the broom. I stayed home for another week before heading back to the army. Later, my mother told me that by the time all the village fields had been harvested, the Carter family had only finished half. One of James's widowed brothers came to help, but it rained after one day, and frost came the next. Half of their crops were lost. I told my mother calmly, "It's not just that half the crops were lost without our help. They wouldn't have even planted half the field during spring plowing." She thought that made perfect sense. Another month passed quickly, and Sarah Miller went home to give birth. In my previous life, thanks to my dowry and financial support, she delivered in a town hospital. Her baby had the umbilical cord wrapped around its neck, and the delivery was dangerous. This time, with no food to eat and no support, things were different. Her parents favored sons and wouldn't give her a penny. She had too many siblings, and her family couldn't afford to help. Sarah found a midwife and delivered a son after a day and night of labor. The baby in her previous life weighed 7.2 gene. This one was only 5.9. I smiled when I heard the news. Of course, she hadn't eaten as well this time. Back then, she used my money for nutrition. I later heard that the baby was born with the umbilical cord around his neck, leading to oxygen deprivation and bruising all over his body. He was born too small, so she had to stay in her hometown to care for him. Emily Davis, Sarah's cousin, had originally been in love with someone else, but Sarah's selfishness ruined that. To get an extra 50 yuan dowry from the Carter family, Emily's parents forced her to marry James Carter. Naturally, Emily and Sarah resented each other. There was no chance Emily would care for Sarah's baby during her confinement. No matter how James's parents scolded her, Emily never said a word, but she didn't lift a finger either. She refused to cook with Sarah or do anything to help. In the dead of winter, Sarah had to wash diapers herself. James's mother insisted that hot water couldn't be used, claiming it would spoil the baby. So Sarah had to use cold water, even during confinement. James's mother was nearly blind now and couldn't do much. His father, with his bad leg, also couldn't work. Emily Davis only did what she felt like. Sophie Carter, James's sister, was completely lazy. In my previous life, I helped tutor their youngest brother every day. He did well in school. This time, no one paid attention to him. He skipped class constantly, and his studies were long abandoned. Before I knew it, it was spring plowing again. The Carter family's land was even harder to manage than during the autumn harvest. Sarah had to carry the baby while tilling the soil. Emily Davis, though reluctant, was forced to help in the fields, but she was lazy and did very little. One day, my mother received a phone call from the army. Thinking it was from me, she answered, only to find it was James Carter. He begged my parents to help his family. My mother firmly refused. "James Carter, our family doesn't owe you anything. Don't call here again," she said, then hung up. During spring plowing, I was already pregnant, so Michael Evans didn't bring me home. Instead, he asked his mother to help rent a tractor with a plow. In 3 days, All our land was plowed. My sister-in-law praised me for marrying well. The whole village said my mother had found a wonderful son-in-law. Meanwhile, James Carter was struggling financially. He had to send money home every month to buy milk powder for his nephew. Sarah Miller had no breast milk after her confinement period ended, and Emily Davis began causing trouble when she couldn't get her hands on any money. James Carter's life was a mess. His sister married a man of her own choosing. Funny enough, in my previous life, I had found a better match for her than I did for myself. This time around, she made her own choice and turned out to be even more blind than I had been back then. James Carter started making mistakes during missions because he was overwhelmed by the chaos back home, and the consequences were serious. The army stripped him of his role and dismissed him from service without assigning a new position. Just like that, he went from being a soldier to becoming a full-time farmer. Meanwhile, I gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. Because I had little contact with my mother-in-law, I stayed at my parents' home during my confinement. I didn't want to cause any issues with my sister-in-law. Michael Evans thoughtfully bought a gold lock for my nephew. Unlike my previous life, my sister-in-law treated me with genuine warmth and care. 3 months after I gave birth, Emily Davis also had a child, but her luck didn't hold out. I had a son. Time flew, and before I knew it, a whole year had passed. I began following the army with my children. Knowing it would be exhausting to care for 2 young kids alone, Michael Evans arranged for my second aunt to come along, providing her with financial support so she could help me. Michael had since been promoted to brigade commander. As our children grew, people in the village began to notice that Sarah Miller's son showed signs of developmental issues, most likely due to oxygen deprivation during childbirth. Many years later, I returned to visit my parents with my 2 children. By then, my parents had built a small Western-style house of their own. Not far from it, the old adobe house still belonged to James Carter. One day, he fell into the river while fishing. When they pulled him out, he began talking nonsense. No, Emma Johnson should have married me. I should be a high-ranking officer in the army. My nephew should have gotten into a prestigious university. My brother should be a college student. My sister's business should be booming.
Why?
Why is everything so wrong? Watching him rant like a madman, I couldn't help but laugh.